Vaishnavad Panamansa Paripradikacharya Ashtotar Shri Śrimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Jayadvaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kundi Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mahi Ki Jai Jamana Mahi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Śrimad Bhāgavatam 3:32-19. Nunam Daivena Vihata Ye Chachuta Kata Sudham Hitva Shrinvanti Asatgata Purisham Iva Vidbhujaha Nunam Daivena Vihata Ye Chachuta Kata Sudham Hitva Shrinvantya Sadgha Purisham Iva Vidbhujaha Nunam Daivena Vihata Ye Chachuta Kata Sudham Hitva Shrinvantya Sadgata Purisham Iva Vidbhujaha. Vidbhujaha Nunam Daivena Vihata Ye Chachuta Kata Sudham Hitva Shrinvantya Sadgata Purisham Iva Vidbhujaha. Nunam Daivena Vihata Ye Chachuta Kata Sudham Sadgata. Ladies. Ye Chachuta Kata Sudham Hitva Shrinvantya Sadgata Purisham Iva Vidbhujaha. Ye Chachuta Katha Sudham Itvashran Vancha Sadgata Purisham Ivavid Pujaha Nunam, certainly, Daivena, by the order of the Lord, Vihataha, condemned, yea, those who, Cha, also, Achuta, of the infallible Lord, Katha, stories, Sudham, nectar, Hitva, having given up, Shrinvanti, they hear, Asadgataha, stories about materialistic persons, Purisham, stool, Eva, like, Vidhujaha, stool eaters, hogs. Such persons are condemned by the supreme order of the Lord because they are averse to the nectar of the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are compared to stool-eating hogs. They give up hearing the transcendental activities of the Lord and indulge in hearing of the abominable activities of materialistic persons. Purport. Everyone is addicted to hearing of the activities of another person, whether a politician or a rich man or an imaginary character whose activities are created in a novel. There are so many nonsensical literatures, stories, and books of speculative philosophy. Materialistic persons are very interested in reading such literature. But when they are presented with genuine books of knowledge, like Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu Purana, or other scriptures of the world, such as the Bible and Quran, they are not interested. These persons are condemned by the supreme order, as much as a hog is condemned. The hog is interested in eating stool. If the hog is offered some nice preparation made of condensed milk or ghee, he won't like it. He would prefer obnoxious, bad-smelling stool, which he finds very relishable. Materialistic persons are considered condemned because they are interested in hellish activities and not in transcendental activities. The message of the Lord's activities is nectar. And besides that message, any information in which we may be interested is actually hellish. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Upakotha Mahyam Tatati Shapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Shadashatam Shahagana Vaganatan Vitam Stam Sadivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Radha Shagana Lolita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dīnabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhobhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Jayadvaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nunam Dvaivena Vihata Yecha Chuta Kata Sudham Yatva Shinvancha Sadkata Purishamiva Vid Pujaha. We're hearing about the materialistic people who don't want to hear about Krishna. They want to hear about Dharmartha Kama Moksha, or they want to hear about the activities of someone. Some politician, some rock star, some, doesn't really matter, someone who interests them. Celebrities, philosophers, or just imaginary characters. Harry Potter. They'd rather hear about that than hear about Krishna. That means that their natural taste has been spoiled. In the healthy condition, everyone wants to hear about Krishna. In Vrindavan village, Yashoda Mai is churning butter and singing songs about the activities of Krishna. All the Brajbasis are busy talking about Krishna. That's their relish, thinking about Krishna, talking about Krishna. But in the diseased state, why should I hear about Krishna, but hear about something else more interesting? Someplace, I think in 4th canto, it said that the greatest obstacle to progress is to think that something else is more interesting, more important than spiritual realization. My family life is more important. My career is more important. My interests are more important. My hobbies are more important. My television takes precedence. This is the diseased condition. Daivena vihata, condemned by Daiva. Daiva means the order of the Lord, or Daiva means the arrangement of the material energy under the guidance of the Lord. Why are they condemned? They're condemned because they want to be condemned. They go to Barnes and Nobles and they seek out, this looks interesting, this looks interesting. Novels, fiction, history, this, that, this is interesting. So they absorb themselves in these things. Instead of Achutakata, Sudham, instead of the nectar of Achutakata, Achuta means Krishna. Better just sit, not like Achyuta Katha. Achyuta means Krishna, who's infallible. The fools want to hear about some fallible person, some fallen person. Achyuta. Achyuta Katha. They want to hear about fallen, miserable, conditioned souls who are bewildered by the material energy. That's what they want to hear about. They don't want to hear about Achyuta, the infallible personality of Godhead. They're averse to hearing about Krishna. Achyuta Katha. So Achyuta Katha means the topics of Achyuta, Krishna, or the topics which are infallible. The message of Śrimad Bhāgavatam is also Achyuta, infallible. If one hears the topics of Krishna, one will be purified, because the topics themselves are Uttama Shloka. They're topics of the personality of Godhead, who's beyond the modes of material nature. So this was transcendental literature. Elsewhere in the first canto, we hear about the literature meant for the swans and the literature for the crows. Take your pick. The swans want to be in the beautiful lakes, lotus flowers, and the crows want to pick at the garbage. And you can't tell the crows, my dear crow, this is garbage. Why don't you join the swans? No. This is relishable. We're getting garbage, we're getting corpses to pick at. We like it. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur told about a custom in Burma. They set up a Gaudiya Math in Burma, and it seems that a delicacy there, he told the name, I've forgotten the name, one item where they have like a pot with some, and in the pot, whatever dies, they put in the pot. Some insect, some rats, some whatever. They put it in the pot and then it just stays there. Some water, or alcohol, whatever. And then on some festive occasion, they'll extract some of that water, some of that liquid as a great delicacy. Something special. And when the Gaudiya Math went there, naturally the devotees were cooking, and so they'd cook in ghee. And the neighbors would complain, this smells horrible. So this is the same thing here. You tell the hog, my dear hog, what are you eating? This is stool. And he'll say, of course it's stool. This is nice. So here, that's applied to literature, the great literature. You go to school and you're supposed to study great literature. Hemingway, Faulkner, Shakespeare, this, that. Who is it? Ralph Ellison. One young man was telling me they were, anyway, I won't even tell you what the subject matter was. It was so obnoxious. Not like that. Don't sit like that. It's an aparad to the deity. They want to hear so many topics. Imaginary. It's considered wonderful that the novelist has invented so many wonderful things. But it has no substance, no ultimate substance. It's only entertainment for the mind. But it doesn't uplift the mind. It distracts the mind from the real business of life. And they're great professors. They study this author, they study that author. They analyze, they write papers. They write more chutakata, useless topics. So in this way, hitva shrinvanti asadkata. Asad means unreal, temporary, bad. These are all meanings of asad. They want to hear these topics which have no substantial reality. The novels and fiction are admittedly unreal, and the newspapers and current events and history and so on is also unreal. First of all, so often it doesn't really correspond to what actually happens. The newspaper is full of half-truths, which is another way of saying lies. And even if it were completely truthful, of what use is it? Why do I want to hear about these people and their, what's the word? Their superficial or insignificant activities. These great men are ultimately insignificant. They're lost in the waves of time. And we're thinking that it's very important. But who will remember them? Even 20 years from now, to say nothing of 100 years from now. Who was the mayor of New York 75 years ago? And even if you heard his name, well, yeah, so what? It's like lost. Very important at the time. We have to elect this person. And it's just another name lost in history. And by hearing about such persons, no one becomes uplifted. By hearing the newspapers, reading the newspapers, who becomes uplifted? At the end, we're reading every day, and what's the advantage? Do I feel better after reading half an hour reading the newspaper? Do I feel uplifted, edified? Have I gotten some substantial gain in my life? I've just wasted my time, which is so the most valuable thing. So asadkata, bad topics, useless topics. Instead of achutakata, achutakata, Krishna kata. Shrinvatam svakatam Krishna Parmeshwara. So it should be cultivated. Krishna consciousness means one of our programs is to cultivate hearing about Krishna. Just as one learns to get involved in this, get involved in that. So it's by cultivating, like music. What do they teach in middle school? Music appreciation, right? So you get a little idea of what the composer's doing, how to appreciate the music. And you get to some insight into what's going on. But the music appreciation is much less important than appreciation of Krishna, appreciation of the ultimate goal of life, appreciation of spiritual wisdom. That's missing. Even in the schools, when I went to school, that foot should not be extended in that direction. Thank you. Even when I was going to school, it was the custom to read the Bible every morning for 5 minutes before the classes. There'd be something. Then they read all the other stuff. Now I think that's gone, perhaps illegal. But in the Vedic society, it's the custom always, we should hear something about Krishna. It's described in the description of the life of Manu in the third canto, Swayambhuva Manu. He would fall asleep hearing Krishna Katha. He's a king, so he could have people recite. That's what he would do. Not that he would fall asleep watching television. He would hear Krishna Katha. So this is our real business, and that's indicated here. We should do the opposite of what's described here. The materialists give up the Achyuta Katha for a Sat Katha. And we should practice the opposite, giving up a Sat Katha to hear about Krishna Katha. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments? Yes, there's lots of time. Panchanga Prabhu.
Newspapers are a common, how to put it, we feel like we need to keep up with the news.
We feel like we have to keep up with
what's going on in the world. We don't want to feel like, we're out of touch.
Yeah,
And sometimes there are things that happen that are actually, in some ways, something happens, okay, some borders shut down. There's news that it may affect us as well, so we want to keep up with the what's going on, to be prepared. So how do we? Is this just all Maya, or?
For the most part, none of it matters. To be out of touch is to be good. To be out of touch, they just did in Gitanagari on digital detox. To be out of touch with all of this rubbish. I have to check my Facebook feed. Why? What will happen if you don't? It's not like the world is going to end. I have to check the news, have to get my newspaper, have to check my Facebook feed, see what's on Instagram. No. If we let it go, we'll be fine. I have my own experience that I'll be here in America and, get the news. Now I get much less news, I hardly. But you go to India, you spend 2 months, 4 months, and you come back, and wherever the news left off, you pick it up, and nothing's changed. It's like missing 10 episodes of some television serial or something. It doesn't really matter. You just come back wherever you left off, and the same nonsense is going on. And you didn't miss a thing. So you can miss it all the time. Now, Prabhupada in Calcutta, I think one time, said that the temple president should read the newspaper. For the reasons you said, there may be something practical. There's some preaching opportunity, or there's, the borders are being shut down, or something that matters. But that doesn't mean read the newspaper cover. You scan the headlines and see what's going on. There's something important. But not everyone has to do that. I had experience. Back to Godhead was situated here, had its offices in New York, and then it moved to Los Angeles. And from there it moved to San Diego. And we had a house for BTG, and we had our editors, our layout man, a circulation director, and so on. And here, of course, we have the New York Times, which is one of the best newspapers in the world. It's deteriorated, perhaps, but it wins all these Pulitzer Prizes. It's written by people who are the best, the graduates of the best journalism schools. It's absorbing. It's well researched and so on. And in San Diego and Los Angeles, there was nothing. The Los Angeles Times in those days was almost like an Indian newspaper, like a poor Indian newspaper. It was just so bad. You could starve reading Los Angeles Times. And San Diego, whatever newspaper, was still more poor. But anyway, there in San Diego, people also read the New York Times. And to our office came an offer in the mail that you could get a free subscription for 2 months or 3 months, whatever it was, to the New York Times. And, back to Godhead, we should be up with what's going on in the world so that we can write relevant articles and so on. And so we were getting the New York Times delivered to our office every day. And one editor would read the New York Times, then the other editor would read the New York Times, and then the layout man would read the New York Times, and then the circulation director. And the New York Times, of course, is big. You just scan the headlines, and before you know it, you spend 30 minutes or more checking out the New York Times. So times 5, that was like we spent collectively 3 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours reading the New York Times and getting nothing from it. If you calculate what did we get in terms of something relevant for nothing. But it was going on. We all had to, waiting our turn to read the New York Times. Finally, I canceled the subscription. We were liberated. But these things are written in such a way, people go to journalism school to learn how to catch your mind. How do you read an exciting lead paragraph that absorbs the reader and keeps him reading? It's an art. How do you write a novel that catches the reader from the very first paragraph, the very first sentence? It's an art. It's the art of capturing someone else's mind and dragging it through the stool. And now it's digital. The art is how to keep the user involved on your platform. Is that the correct terminology? How to keep the user involved on your platform. And so they have highly paid people whose job it is to keep you there. When you finish one video, another video automatically starts playing. When you search for one thing, here's 10 other things that you might be interested in, and so on. All different ways. And then now you can poke people, you can nudge people, you can wink at people, you can do all this kind of stuff. So we stay involved. Because the involved user is the user that the advertiser wants to pay money for. Anyway, I don't want to talk about all that stuff. But we're being engaged by mind, in fooled by mind, tricked by mind, into wasting our time. Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, they were sitting under trees in Vrindavan. They weren't getting the news. They weren't reading the newspapers and then writing Ujjwala Nilmani or something. They were Nana Shastra Vicharane. They were exploring the Vedic literature, exploring the Puranas, especially exploring Nana Shastra, various Shastras, and especially Śrimad Bhāgavatam. And churning Śrimad Bhāgavatam and getting the essence. Pibata Bhāgavatam, they were drinking Śrimad Bhāgavatam. Shuddham, nectar. It's, what do you say? When one gets a taste for it, then vayam tu na vitripyama uttama Yashchindatam rasagyanam swadu pade in the first canto. The sages told Sutta Goswami, we never get tired of this. not tripyama. We never get bored or satiated. Vayam tu na tripyama. Uttama shloka vikram. These wonderful topics of Uttama shloka, wonderful activities, Vikram, wonderful activities. Yaj Trindvatam, Rasagyan, those who know what rasa is, those who know what taste is. Just like I don't know about you, but my mother, if I didn't like some kind of food, she said, "Oh, you don't know what's good." Anybody else? You don't know what's good. Right? And we don't. We think that all this junk is good. We'd rather play video games than hear about Krishna. But rasagyan, those who know what actual taste is, or those who are interested in tasting the loving exchanges between Krishna and his devotees, and loving sentiments between Krishna and his devotees. That's actually ras. It's there in a perverted reflection in the novels and fictions and so on of this world. But these are just shadows of the transcendental taste in the relationship between Krishna and the liberated devotees. So those who are rasagya, who know what rasa is, swadu, swadu, they taste at every step, swadu, swadu. They taste and taste, the repetition means they do it and do it. They taste and taste, swadu, swadu. Pade, pade, at every step. Swadu means taste. There's a You're tasting and tasting at every step. Otherwise, go ahead and read the newspaper. But that it not only wastes our time, but it spoils our tastes. Just like you can spoil your appetite, if you eat something. Again, your mother or father will say, "No, if you eat now, you'll spoil your appetite." And you don't snack an hour before dinner because you'll spoil your appetite. So we spoil our taste for Krishna Katha by hearing this rubbish Katha. Your ear becomes accustomed to the rubbish, and we don't like to hear about Krishna, or we're indifferent. And because we're in a diseased condition. So the sadhana bhakti, to a great extent, consists of, no, sit and hear, or better, sit and discuss. The devotees, Machchitam Vankatapam, Bodhyanta Paraspara, they enlighten one another by exchanging. Did you know this? Did you know that? I came across this. Isn't this cool? Different things about Krishna. The devotees get enlivened, and when they do that, Krishna illuminates them from the heart. Katyantastamam tushyanti chara. They feel great satisfaction and pleasure just talking about Krishna. So we can practice this. Just instead of speaking about rubbish, develop the habit. Speak about Krishna. Why shoot the breeze, as they say? Why just talk about useless topics? Vacho vegam. We want to control the tongue. Speak about Krishna. There's so much unlimited topics. And hear about Krishna. And that's the business of the devotees, not just to hang out with one another and talk about what they read in the New York Times, but to read these books and then discuss what does Prabhupada mean when he says this, and so on. Okay? Something else? Something. Yes.
Just adding on to what Pancharatna Prabhu was saying, sometimes I feel like, or in my experience, say I'm talking to a little child or something, and
Experiencing talking to a little child?
yes, and somebody who doesn't know of Krishna consciousness, but they may know of Spider-Man, for example. But then in conversation, maybe I'll bring up Spider-Man and then afterwards compare him to Krishna and say how much
I'm
better.
having a real hard time sorting out that. Try it without the microphone. See what
Oh,
happens.
yeah. So essentially I'm saying that sometimes the mundane topics as an art form, like you were mentioning, help reel in other people's interests, and then you can curtail that topic to glorifying Krishna. And if we use maybe trending news with the intention to relate it for a preaching opportunity, is that a bona fide method, or should we?
Yes, you can take something that people are already interested in and use that as a launch pad for Krishna Katha. Prabhupada did that. Prabhupada said to do that you have to be expert. To do that you have to be expert. What happens when we're not expert is we wind up, writing 3 or 4 pages about whatever the trending topic is, with maybe a little hint that there might be something more, or that there's some backstory or something. And then, maybe the last page, there's a paragraph or something. So we should not be captivated by blah, blah, blah. Or if you want to get free from blah, 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 then this. So you basically regurgitated 4 pages of mundane topics and added a little icing, a little veneer of Krishna consciousness. That's those who are not expert. Prabhupada, he'd write for his Back to Godhead in the original days. He'd give them like a paragraph or so. He'd give them, Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru has said such and such and such and such. We appreciate the remarks of Mr. Nehru, but, and then he's off and running. Bhāgavatam, Easy Journey to Other Planets. There's a few paragraphs about some news from Isvestia or something. And then Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, we're so busy being relevant that we're relevant to them, but not relevant to Krishna. So if we're going to do that, we have to deliver the goods. Not that we're, in the name of bridge preaching, we remain on the far side of Krishna consciousness. And we don't, because we have a taste now for what they're interested in. Or we think that we're really preaching in a sophisticated manner because we know all about this and that, and we can talk about this and that, and maybe related to higher values. What's higher values? It's nothing. It's just smoke. Give me something substantial, otherwise what are you doing? Talking about others and saying, this shows we need higher values. You have to deliver the goods, otherwise, that's what we get paid for. We get paid for speaking about Krishna and speaking about Bhāgavatam. We don't get paid extra for Brahma Katha. Metaphorically speaking, no one's paying us, but we don't get any extra brownie points or any extra pay for dwelling on mundane topics. Our final mission is you have to deliver the stuff. And we may be very expert in our plans and strategies and how to get in but if we don't deliver the stuff, then the whole thing's a failure. Your grand strategy, your sophisticated methods, your practice in public speaking and Kiwanis Club rules for effectively reaching people or whatever. Mm-mm. Even if we're not expert, if we just speak Krishna Katha, it will be good. You may be inarticulate, you may be grammatically off base, you may be whatever, not a good speaker, but if you do deliver, good, you did your job. Well or badly, but you did the job. Otherwise, you're the most sophisticated person, but you know, the package never got there. You have this great delivery system, you have fantastic customer relations, you've got good advertising, you've got a wonderful package, you know, wrapper, but it never gets there. What's the use? You know, give me some stupid fellow with a donkey who will get the package there. Something else? Yes.
Hare Krishna. So I get asked this sometimes by devotees about reading like pseudo-spiritual books.
You get asked by devotees sometimes about reading
Pseudo-spiritual books. I mean,
which books?
like pseudo-spiritual, but they're
I couldn't hear it. Yeah.
pseudo-spiritual books.
Pseudo-spiritual books. Okay. Yeah, go on without the microphone.
And because it helped in some way, like they're not written by
Because it helps
devotees,
in
but it
some
helped
way.
in some way to get them here. And then, like, how much should devotees do that?
How much should devotees do that?
allowed
Well,
or
I
not?
guess how much should the devotees encourage people to read pseudo-spiritual books? I guess to the extent that they want people to be pseudo-spiritual. Why pseudo-spiritual books when we have genuine spiritual books? Even if you like fiction, I was just with Satsuru Maharaj in his annual gathering in Stuyvesant Falls, and they republished, after many years, the series of small books that Satsuru Maharaj wrote about Nimai and the mouse, which is a story about a young man who finds that he's able to communicate with mice and so on. And there's a whole, the mice become devotees, it's a whole thing. Totally fiction. But as they were just reading a little sample from it as part of the gathering. It was so good. It was so good because there was so much substance being delivered. It wasn't just a fascinating, cute or clever tale about a mouse and how the mouse had a guru and all that kind of stuff. No, there was substance there. Well, that's called expert. When you give substance, then you're expert. And when you just write something that's like following the footsteps of a really great author, or some author that you like, really cool something, it's basically sense gratification. We have to deliver the goods. So for those who like fiction, there's good fiction. You can read Jayadvaita, which is also fiction, but it's all Krishna. It's all didactic fiction. It gives you Krishna consciousness. Or read Satsuru Maharaj's fiction about me. For kids it's good. For adults it's good. Fantastic. I mean, I was really hadn't seen it in a long time. I was impressed to hear for 10 minutes about Krishna Katha in the form of a mouse tail. So that's just been republished. For those who are looking for, they have a fiction habit to meet, where they have kids who need to read fiction, and this is it, good fiction. I've seen other fiction that devotees have written. When it doesn't deliver very much, then it doesn't deliver very much. But when it delivers substantial, transcendental knowledge, then it's not pseudo-spiritual, it's spiritual.
I Kadambakananda Maharaj used to often speak about this book by Satsvarup Maharaj, Nimai and the Mouse.
Kadambakananda Maharaj would speak about Satsvarup Maharaj's book, Nimai and the Mouse.
Yeah. He often glorified this book, so I actually want to read it. It's just, whenever we say this to people, like, oh, we should only read Krishna conscious books, it sounds like fanatic. That's the thing.
We can only read Krishna conscious books. It sounds like fanaticism. Okay, we're fanatics. What is a fanatic? A fanatic is a person who is totally into something. So we're totally into something. Then if it's something good, then why not be totally into it? The Bobby Fischer, going back to the days of the Cold War, the Russians were the experts in chess for generations. And this young kid, he was hardly more than out of his teens, became a brilliant chess player, Bobby Fischer. And it was to the plight of Americans during the Cold War. He would defeat the Russian grandmasters. And he wasn't a highly educated person, but he learned just enough Russian to read the chess books. The chess magazines, chess books in Russian. He knew he could read that. Didn't care about, Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, all that kind of stuff. Forget it. Chess books. And he would read, anything he could get his hands on chess, he'd read it. And he became super expert chess player. So that's what we do when we're into something. Harry Potter, when's the next one coming out? So, okay, they're fanatics. They're fanatical about an imaginary kid, and we're fanatical about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Take your choice. Or, from another point of view, let's say we have a refined taste. People who are really, what's the word? Who have a high taste in literature, they're not reading Stephen King and, the stuff that you get at the airport. They're not reading airport novels. They're reading, the really good stuff. And so are they fanatics because they will market literature? They have higher tastes. So we have a still higher taste. You're a fanatic. You will need stool. Okay, we admit it. We don't like it. We don't have a taste for it. We don't like meat. We don't like fish. We don't like eggs. We don't like stool. And so we're fanatics. But the fanatics of 50 years ago, now it's cool. Back then it was fanatical and injurious to your health to be a vegetarian. Now it's cool and healthy and I don't eat such and such. Now it's so Prabhupada, Śrimad Bhāgavatam is always ahead of its time. It's always ahead of its time. So in the future, the intellectual and social, and spiritual leaders of Śrimad Bhāgavatam will all be, of the world, will all be Śrimad Bhāgavatam fanatics. So we're just a little bit ahead of the curve, that's all. And you're behind. So if you don't want to be too far behind, become a fanatic like us, and you'll get and then you'll see why we're such fanatics about it. There's so much there in every verse, in every word, and it's relishable. And it's not it's not relishable for a moment. And like the newspaper, you read it once and then you wrap your fish in it. That's it. It's gone. How valuable is that? But Bhāgavatam, we're reading and reading and reading. Shall we stop here? Time is close. Yes, we shall. Thank you all very much. All praise to Śrīla Prabhupada. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare.